Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. We are baby. This is the Hype Show. I am Big J all day, aka the mighty Big J. Thank you so much for joining the Sunday edition of the Hype Show. We are heading into week 4 of the NFL season, and this, my friends, is episode 9 of the Hype Show. We are getting them episodes stacked up, baby. If this is your first time here, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if this isn't your first time here, thank you so much for joining me again. We've been doing this thing a few weeks, and it's going to keep on rolling. So I really appreciate the support. We're going to start by talking about the update on the Atlanta and Jacksonville game here. They're currently playing as we speak right now. That game started at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, so a couple hours ago over in London. And the score so far is 17 to 10, 17 to 7 actually, Jaguars. The third quarter has just ended. They're heading into the fourth quarter of the international game here. So if you have ESPN Plus, go ahead and check that game out. That game is going on as we speak. That's the first game to kick off the day. We're also going to touch on the Thursday night football game here in a bit here between the Detroit Lions and Green Bay Packers. And then we'll list off all the games going on for the rest of the day, including the Sunday night football matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the New York Jets, and the Monday night football matchup between the Seattle Seahawks and New York Giants. We'll touch on that game as well here. But yeah, as I stated here, we're heading into the fourth quarter. The Jacksonville Jaguars are up 17 to 7. So I did pick Jacksonville to win that game here, and we'll just have to see how that pans out here. But we'll definitely touch on a final score before that this broadcast is completed because that game should be over before the other slated games here. Looking at the Thursday night results here, the Green Bay Packers and Detroit Lions. The Packers were hosting the Lions here. The Detroit Lions defeated the Green Bay Packers 34 to 20. Jared Goff of the Detroit Lions quarterback was 19 of 28 for 210 yards, one touchdown, and one interception. Conversely, Jordan Love of the Green Bay Packers was 23 of 36 for 246 yards, one touchdown, and two interceptions. Looking at the box score, the easiest way to see how this game was won was looking at the box score because Detroit was up 27 to 3 at the half, and it just never looked like it was the Green Bay's game. Now, Green Bay did outscore Detroit 17 to 7 in the second half, but a lot of that was too little too late because Detroit, they controlled this game on the ground for sure. Detroit running back David Montgomery had 32 carries for 121 yards and 3 touchdowns. He definitely handled the rock very well. He himself, all by himself, did more than Green Bay's entire running back core, period. Green Bay as a whole only had 27 yards on them. Jordan Love had 2 carries for -2 yards. Aaron Jones coming back from that hamstring injury he suffered week 1 against the Bears. He didn't really look like himself at all. He had 5 carries for 18 yards. And running back A.J. Dillon, the backup running back, he also had 5 carries for 11 yards. So nothing going on the ground whatsoever for the Green Bay Packers. Jahmyr Gibbs, the Detroit running back who spells David Montgomery, he had a quiet night as well. He had 8 carries for 40 yards, but he also had 4 catches for 11 yards. He only had 51 yards on the ground. But when David Montgomery is dominating like that, it's kind of going to be not really needed for Jahmyr Gibbs to really get off as well. It'd be nice, but David Montgomery, that was his backfield, and it's probably going to be like that. He's probably going to get the bulk of the carries. He got 32 carries again. Like I said, Jahmyr Gibbs got 8. I thought it was going to be a little more balanced, but again, Jahmyr Gibbs is a rookie, so he's still kind of figuring things out. And David Montgomery, this is his 5th year. He was spent the last 4 seasons with the Chicago Bears before coming over as a free agent. So he knows how to play the Packers anyway. He's played them his entire career. So he dominated all night. As far as the receiving core here, for the Detroit Lions, Josh Reynolds, wide receiver, he had 3 catches for 69 yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 5 catches for 56 yards and a touchdown. And tight end Sam Laporta had 4 catches for 56 yards. On the Green Bay side, wide receiver Romeo Doubs, he did have 9 catches for 95 yards. He caught the ball really well. He just didn't find the end zone. Rookie wide receiver Jaden Reed had 3 catches for 55 yards. Christian Watson did have 2 catches for 25 yards and a touchdown coming back from that hamstring injury. This was his first game of the year, so it was nice to get him back and get the touchdown, but it just really wasn't enough as a whole for this team here. To me, I figured the Lions would win, but they looked really dominant throughout the entire game. Interestingly enough, 27 to 3, the lead that they had at the halftime was actually the biggest halftime lead in the history of the team, the Detroit Lions. So that just goes to show you what they're doing and what they want to get accomplished at this current time here. And heading out of this game here, it's their division to lose, as I stated it would be. They're now 3-1 with the Packers sitting at 2-2. The Minnesota Vikings and Chicago Bears at this time are both 3-3, but they both have games later on this afternoon, so that record will change here. Minnesota is at the Carolina Panthers, and Chicago is hosting the Denver Broncos. Interesting thing is all four of those teams I mentioned are all winless. So the four winless teams in the NFL, two of them should be getting a win today, unless we have a tie, of course. But it's interesting. We'll only have two winless teams left. Again, Detroit dominated this game from start to finish, and it was never close. Jared Goff didn't have to do much but escort David Montgomery up the field all day. He didn't really have to make a lot of passes, and he didn't. Again, he did throw for a touchdown, but after he got the interception early in the game, that interception that Jared Goff threw was, I think, on like the fourth play of the game. And after that, that was really what he did, was just hand the ball off and just throw the short routes. He didn't really throw it that far down the field unless it was to St. Brown. So me personally, Detroit, if they could do this with the defense that they played as well, I think they'll be one of the top teams in the NFC. I'm not willing to put them with San Francisco, Dallas, or Philly yet, but they're right there as far as the NFC goes. They're right there. San Francisco, Philly, and the Cowboys are the only teams that I see that are better than Detroit right now here. I'm looking at Detroit here after that game they had here. Let's take a look at their schedule and see kind of what they're doing next here. They're home against the Carolina Panthers on Sunday, October 8th, 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox. They're at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, October 15th, 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox. At Baltimore, October 22nd, 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox. And then they are home against the Las Vegas Raiders, October 30th for Monday Night Football on October 30th, 8:15 p.m. Eastern. Then they have a bye week. Then they're at the Los Angeles Chargers, November 12th, 4:05 p.m. Eastern, CBS. So Detroit, again, I've been saying this for a long time. I honestly thought that injuries would affect them, but it didn't really affect them last night. And as far as I'm concerned, they're going to be, let's see, that versus Carolina. I got them winning that game here at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They'll probably take that game too. You know, nothing jumps out at me as a loss with any of these five games. Obviously, again, things happen, people get injured, things get kind of wacky. But as far as the next five games here, the only game that jumps out as possible losses to me are at the Baltimore Ravens and at the Los Angeles Chargers, about 6 weeks away. The Chargers, we'll have to see how healthy they are. They lost Mike Williams for the season, so he's not going to be there for that game. And Austin Eckler, he's still having ankle issues. He's still having problems with that ankle, and he's actually going to be out today. Um, it's going to be very interesting because health is always a huge issue with football. So we'll have to see here. But look at the Detroit Lions schedule here. Again, not only I could see them at worst being a 4-1 football team over the course of 5 weeks. Again, things happen and things are kind of wacky, but with the Lions, I don't see it. I really don't. Looking at the Green Bay Packers and seeing how they can bounce back here, they won their first game, they lost their second game, they won their third game, lost to a couple nights ago against Detroit. So they're 2-2, and their next game is at the Las Vegas Raiders a week from tomorrow for Monday Night Football, October 9th, 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ABC. Then they're at the Denver Broncos following their bye week for week 7. That's October 22nd, 4:25 p.m. Eastern. They're probably going to win that game. Again, I'm not picking the Broncos to do anything until they show me. The following week, they're home against the Minnesota Vikings, 1 p.m. Eastern, October 29th. Then the following week, they're home again for the Los Angeles Rams, November 5th, 1 p.m. Eastern. Then they're at the Pittsburgh Steelers, 1 p.m. Eastern, November 12th on CBS. That's going to be interesting. Let's see. At the Packers. Huh. Excuse me. At the Packers. I'm sorry, at the Raiders, excuse me. Hmm. Because the Raiders, to me, they're not going to have Jimmy Garoppolo today. He's in a concussion protocol and he didn't pass it this week, so he's going to be out. As far as I'm concerned, Packers at Raiders, the Packers should still win that football game heading into their bye week. And then at Denver, they should win that one too, because that's only two games over the next few weeks. So I'm going to take them to win those, bounce back and win those two games, the Packers. Home against the Minnesota Vikings, that's going to be much like the Detroit Lions, but Minnesota, they've put up good numbers, but they've disappointed me overall as a team. So I got Green Bay winning that one too. At worst, Green Bay is going to be 3-2 over the course of their next 5 games. After Minnesota, again, they're home against the Rams and then at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, 3-2 at worst is what they're going to be over the course of the next 5 weeks because I feel like their next couple games lay up really well. Their next game again isn't for 8 days from today, and then they have their bye week, and then their game would be 13 days from that game as well. So if they can win those next couple of games and kind of get themselves right over the course of the next couple weeks, they should be fine. They did lose tight end Luke Musgrave to a concussion. He's in concussion protocol. We'll have to see if he's available for that game. He got hurt in the Detroit game. He only had one catch for 1 yard before leaving the game. So he wasn't able to have much of an impact. But like I said, man, this is the NFC. It belongs to the Detroit Lions. It's their division to lose. And Minnesota and Chicago, they got to get in the win column first. We can't even discuss them as being factors in that division at all. Green Bay will probably, if things kind of stay the way they are and kind of shake up, they'll probably end up being a wild card team. They would have to fight, obviously, with a couple of the teams for that wild card spot. But this is Detroit's division to lose. Plain and simple. Let's talk about the slate of games here coming up at 1 p.m. There's 9 games coming up at 1 p.m. Eastern today. As I said, Atlanta and Jacksonville is currently going on as we speak, and we'll touch on that game as the results get closer. It's currently 20-7 Jaguars. They extended their lead with a field goal, and it's 20-7 with 9:49 to go in the fourth quarter. The first game we're going to talk about here on the 1 p.m. Eastern slate is the Miami Dolphins traveling to Buffalo to visit the Buffalo Bills, 1 p.m. Eastern in Orchard Park, New York. The Dolphins coming up off a 70 piece that they put on the Denver Broncos here. They're looking to keep that momentum going and get to 4-0 as one of the few teams left is undefeated. While the Buffalo Bills, they lost their opener, but they've won their last two. The Miami Dolphins, they've lost 7 games in a row at Buffalo. Buffalo has been a place to play that's been very tough and very difficult for them. But we'll have to see if that matters today, in all honesty. I genuinely think they can come out with the win if they keep performing like they have on offense. Tua Tagovailoa, he already has 1,000 yards passing. He is 72 of 101 for 1,024 yards, 8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. A good chunk of that came last week against Denver, but hey, it is what it is. Raheem Mostert, again, a lot of this came against Denver as well. He has 41 carries for 240 yards and 6 touchdowns, getting 3 of them last week. Tyreek Hill has 25 catches for 412 yards, 4 touchdowns. On the flip side, Josh Allen is 80 of 110 for 728 yards, 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Now, 3 of those interceptions came against the Jets week 1, so the last 3 weeks he's been pretty clean as far as holding on to the football, the last 2 games, excuse me. James Cook leads their running core with 44 carries for 267 yards. Stephon Diggs, 25 catches, 270 yards, but just the 1 touchdown so far. I'm gonna say Miami wins this game, um, just because of the fact that they've shown a lot on offense, and their defense isn't that bad either. When both sides of the ball are working really well, that makes for a good matchup. Something also that jumped out at me that's going to hurt the Buffalo Bills is safety Jordan Poyer. He's actually out for this game. He's inactive. He's been listed as inactive, and he won't be playing this game today here. So they're definitely going to miss having him in that backfield, and that's going to be a large part of the reason why I think Miami's going to be able to do what they've been able to do. They've been getting soft secondaries the past few weeks. The Chargers have the best secondary they've faced, but it just didn't look like it back in week 1. So that's huge for them. Jordan Poyer being out for the Bills. So give me Miami to win that football game. I'm looking at the Dolphins' schedule after the game today here. Let's look at their next few games and see where they'll be at. After today's game against Buffalo, they are home against the New York Giants October 8th, 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Home against the Carolina Panthers, 1 p.m. Eastern, October 15th on CBS, excuse me. Then they have the Sunday night football game at Philly, which will be a very interesting game. That's October 22nd, 8:20 p.m. Eastern. And home against the New England Patriots, October 29th, 1 p.m. Eastern, CBS. So, like I said, give me Miami to win that football game. And the only game that I see after of the next 4 that could be an issue There's the at the Eagles Sunday Night Football. That's gonna be probably the best defensive line Tua will have seen, and that secondary with Darius Slay Jr. back there is nothing to sneeze at. Nothing to sneeze at all. So that Dolphins game at the Eagles Sunday Night Football, October 22nd, is gonna be huge. That's the only game that jumps out as a game that's gonna be difficult. Home against the Patriots, they already beat the Patriots earlier in week 2 at New England, so home against the Patriots, I think, will be tougher than the road game. Even though they won, that game was a little tougher for them than it should have been because I feel like Bill Belichick's defense was schemed really well to Tua's weaknesses, but they were able to get by. So, like I said, I could see the Dolphins going 4-1 over the course of their next 5 games, and we'll just have to see who owns that division. They're up three. They're 3-0 right now with Buffalo on their heels at 2-1. If Miami does lose this game today, that's going to make things very interesting and put them at each at 3-1. So depending upon how things shake out with this game today, we'll have to see who owns that division for real. But if Miami gets this win today, they're off and running. They'll be a 4-0 football team, and again, they'll be like I said, 4-1 over their next 5 games, in my opinion. The next game we're going to talk about here coming up at 1 p.m. Eastern, October 1st. I call this game the Toilet Bowl. The Denver Broncos are traveling to Chicago to visit the Chicago Bears. That's 1 p.m. Eastern at Soldier Field. And this game is simple. One of these teams has to win today. This is a must win. Interestingly enough, I found this out this morning, and the Denver Broncos, they just keep setting records, just not the good kind. In Vegas, the Denver Broncos are the first team in history to lose a game by 50 points and still be favored the next week. They're favored by 3 to beat the Chicago Bears today because the Bears, they got all kinds of issues too. They have more issues than National Geographic right now. The Bears are 0-3 with Justin Fields. He has 3 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. Russell Wilson is not playing that bad, but when your defense is giving up 70, what are you going to do? Like, what exactly are you going to do? They gave up 35 to the Commanders the week before that. So the defense has given up 105 points technically in 2 weeks. The defense has regressed tremendously. Um, Again, somebody has to win this game, plain and simple. The Broncos could be a safe bet to win this game, and I'm going to pick them just due to the simple fact that I'm giving them one last chance to show me that they can do something. And if they can't beat the Bears, then they're not beating anybody. Period. It's over. For the Bears, the mess that they have is that this head coach and this general manager for the team, they weren't there with the Chicago Bears when Justin Fields was drafted. The Matt Nagy, Ryan Pace era is gone. Those guys are out. With this head coach here, Eberflus, this is his second season with the team. But if it's a situation where Chicago is so bad that they end up with that first pick again, they're probably going to go on the route of a quarterback. They're probably going to get the guy that they want. Could be Caleb Williams throwing 6 touchdowns against Colorado yesterday. You know what I mean? So, and if you're the Broncos on the flip side, can you even go get a quarterback? Because even with the draft capital that you're going to have as being the worst pick in the having the top pick for being the worst team in the league, if that were to happen for the Broncos, do you get a quarterback? Because you're tied to Russell Wilson for years and you're paying him a lot of money. So do you bring in a quarterback to let them sit behind Russell Wilson? And if a certain point comes, you bring them in? If the Broncos lose this game, you have a lot of questions you got to ask yourself. You really do if you're the Denver Broncos. So, like I said, I'm going to take the Broncos to win this game close. Um, but looking at the rest of the Broncos schedule here, they're home against the New York Jets next Sunday, October 8th, 4:25 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Then they have a quick turnaround for Thursday Night Football at Kansas City. That's 8:15 p.m. Eastern, October 12th, and that'll be on Prime Video. Then 10 days later, they're home against the Green Bay Packers, 4:25 p.m. Eastern, CBS. Then they're home the following week, October 29th, 4:25 p.m. Eastern on CBS against the Kansas City Chiefs. Realistically speaking, the Broncos between today and the 4 games after that, they could be 2-3 optimistically. I don't see them beating Kansas City either time. And as I just discussed earlier with the Green Bay Packers, with them coming off of a bye week and having a space between their games that they had Thursday night and the following Monday, I think Green Bay will be a healthier team. They'll be more rested by that time. The Broncos will have come off of a couple games prior to that Green Bay game, so I could see them losing that football game. So I'm going to say the Broncos, optimistically, will be 2-3 over their next 5 games between today and the 4 games following that. So that'll put them at 2-6. Congratulations. For the Chicago Bears, I got them losing today to fall to 0-4. They have a quick turnaround with the Thursday night football game. They're at the Washington Commanders on October 5th, 8:15 p.m. Eastern. Thursday games are kind of strange, and it's the Washington Commanders. It's not anybody else in that division that would be scary. So that game is a pick 'em for now. I'm going to predict that game on Thursday for you, though. I'll have a prediction firmly for you Thursday. 10 days later, the Bears are home against the Minnesota Vikings, October 15th, 1 p.m. Eastern. Then they're home against the Las Vegas Raiders, October 22nd, 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Then they're at the Los Angeles Chargers, October 29th, 8:20 p.m. Eastern on NBC. That definitely could be a loss at the Chargers, for sure. That's going to be a loss. That's definitely a loss. Looking at the Bears, though, they could steal that Raiders game home against the Raiders because the Raiders are coming to them. They could steal that game. Home against Minnesota, divisional opponents. I know the Vikings have put up some numbers, but they haven't won yet either. We'll have to see if they beat Carolina later today. They could take that game. The Bears, to me, as much of a mess as they are, they could be 1-4, possibly. And if they beat the Broncos today, that's nuts. They benched Chase Claypool, wide receiver Chase Claypool. They've already benched him, and they just acquired him last year from the Pittsburgh Steelers at the trade deadline, and he's already a healthy scratch. He's healthy for this game. And they're not even using him. They're using rookie Tyson Bagent as the backup to Justin Fields. They activated him from the squad, and they benched Claypool. That's nuts. Chase Claypool, he had these same issues in Pittsburgh, and he's already having issues with the Bears. So, Detroit or Denver and Chicago, those are 2 teams that are probably looking at the draft already, if we're just being honest here. The next game we're going to talk about here on the docket here is an AFC North matchup here. The Baltimore Ravens are traveling to visit the Cleveland Browns, 1 p.m. Eastern. The Cleveland Browns and Baltimore Ravens, that's going to be a good game here just due to the simple fact that they're rivals and they're going to go toe to toe like they always do in the AFC North. But the Ravens are missing a lot of guys. Each team is 2-1 heading into this football game. They're looking to improve their record in the AFC North. But if Baltimore is going to do anything, they're going to need some support from a lot of people. At this current time, statistically, the Browns have the #1 defense. And it showed last week against Joe Burrow. He wasn't able to do much at all. Plain and simple. That's why Cincinnati's a 1-2 football team. Marlon Humphrey, the quarterback, is going to be out. Your left tackle, Ronnie Stanley, is going to be out for Baltimore as well. Those guys are key. On the flip side, the Cleveland Browns, Deshaun Watson, the quarterback, he's going to be inactive for today's game as well. So that's going to be pretty huge for the Cleveland Browns here. They're not even going to have Deshaun Watson today. And with that being, I figured it was going to be a situation where we're going to see Deshaun Watson going toe to toe with Lamar Jackson, but Dorius Thompson Robinson is getting the start for the Cleveland Browns at quarterback today, with PJ Walker backing him up off the practice squad. Huge. This is going to be a situation where it's going to be Cleveland's defense against Baltimore's offense. That's what this game is going to come down to. And simply because of the fact that they're at home, I'm taking Cleveland to win this game. But Deshaun Watson being out is going to mess with the continuity of that offense. He was starting to build a rapport with Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones at the wideout position. And I feel like him being out is going to be huge. And with this being a divisional matchup, Baltimore needs this. They've already beaten Cincinnati, so they would love to take this game too. Let's look at Baltimore's schedule after this game here. After at Cleveland, they are also at the Pittsburgh Steelers the following week, October 8th, 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS. That's going to be huge. The following week, Cleveland has an international game against the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday, October 15th, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in England. That's considered a home game for Tennessee. But again, that's a matchup where both teams have to travel. Then there, Baltimore is. I'm sorry, that's considered a home game for Baltimore, actually. The following week, October 22nd, 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox, they're home against the Detroit Lions. Then they're at the Arizona Cardinals, October 29th, 4:25 p.m. Eastern on CBS. So I'm taking Cleveland to beat Baltimore today. At Pittsburgh is also going to be tough because that defense is going to be looking to get Lamar Jackson shut down. I'm sure Mike Tomlin has cooked up something already. They see that team twice a year. So that's going to be tough for Baltimore out the gate over the next couple of games here. Now, home against Tennessee, even though it's in England, it's a home game. I could see them winning that game because Tennessee hasn't really shown me much. Baltimore's issue is personnel being available for you, but they've been a good team as far as playing. So I'm going to take Baltimore to win that game. Home against Detroit is going to be tough as well because it's not a travel issue going that far from Detroit to Baltimore. So I'm going to take Detroit to win that football game. Cleveland is in trouble if they lose Watson for any amount of time with this shoulder issue. If Watson is out any extended amount of time, Cleveland is going to be in trouble overall. And that's going to allow Baltimore to kind of jump in on top and kind of keep that division at bay here. And looking at these games that Baltimore has at worst, um, I'm going to say Baltimore is 3-2 because I can see them beating Tennessee and Arizona, and then they might steal today's game because of Deshaun Watson being out. I picked Cleveland, but they could steal today's game. So they could be 2-3, 3-2. Looking at that division, that could be good enough because Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Cleveland are all with each other at 2-1 as we speak right now, with Cincinnati at 1-2. You just don't want to be in a division where you're out of it by November, December. So if Baltimore can hang around over these next 5 games here, they'll be in great shape here. As far as the Cleveland Browns go, looking at their schedule, like I said, if Deshaun Watson is out any extended period of time, they're going to be in trouble. Luckily for them, after today, they're part of the first slate of bye weeks in week 5 next week. So they do have a bye week. If Deshaun Watson is available for the 49ers, that would be great because that's their week 6 matchup at home, October 15th at 11, or I'm sorry, 1 p.m. Eastern. They're at the Indianapolis Colts October 22nd, 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Then they're home against they're at the Seattle Seahawks October 29th, 4:05 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Home against the Arizona Cardinals November 5th, 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS will be the game going on, it looks like, for them week 9. Um, at this point in time, I'm again going to take Cleveland to win today. But something funny could happen if they don't have their quarterback. They're out there, Watson, to play because I think Cleveland's defense is going to be the key for this game. So I'm going to take Cleveland to win this game. That would put them at 3-1 heading into their bye week. I got the 49ers winning the football game on October 15th when they return from that bye week, week 6. At Indianapolis, I'm going to take them to win that football game. At Seattle, I'm taking Seattle. At home against the Cardinals, I'm going to take Cleveland to win that football game because Arizona's making the trip out east. So, like I said, Deshaun Watson being healthy is going to be key for them to stay afloat and stay around with this team in the division. But I can see them being 3-2 over the next 5 games here. We're just going to have to see how that shakes out. Another 1 p.m. matchup coming up here today is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals traveling to Tennessee to visit the Titans. That game is at 1 p.m. Eastern here, and that'll be occurring at Nissan Stadium in Nashville. The Bengals are favored at 2.5 to win this football game, and each team is 1-2. Coming into this game here, the previous game I had doubts about Joe Burrow's calf injury when he was playing the Monday Night Football game against the Rams, and he was able to spell any kind of concern or any kind of issues that were casting a doubt over that injury. He looked to be fine, so I got Cincinnati winning this game today. Tannehill has been dreadful. He only has 1 touchdown on the season and he's been very inconsistent. He threw 3 interceptions in one game, and then this other game he didn't have a touchdown or an interception. He's been very mediocre. And same with Derrick Henry. He has 163 yards rushing through 3 games. So Tennessee really has to get him going. I'm going to take the the Cincinnati Bengals to win this game. They need to get going and stay pace in that AFC North. And I think this is where it starts today. I got the Cincinnati Bengals winning this football game here. After this game here, they'll be at the Arizona Cardinals, 4:05 p.m. Eastern, October 8th on Fox for the Week 5 matchup. They'll be home against the Seattle Seahawks, October 15th, 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Then they'll hit their bye week for Week 7. Or, yeah, they'll have a bye week, Week 7. Then they're at the San Francisco 49ers, October 29th, 4:25 p.m. Eastern. For Sunday Night Football the following week, they're home against the Buffalo Bills, 8:20 p.m. Eastern, November 5th on NBC. That's going to be a great matchup here. Cincinnati and Buffalo. This game was put in place because each team was a division winner, and that's typically how things go when you're a division winner. You usually match up with a team that had the same results with you as the week before. So this is going to be a great situation for Cincinnati and Buffalo here because this will really determine who's going to be in the mix as far as divisional winners and as far as seeding. So that's a very important game. I'll have a better prediction once we get closer to that because I'm going to be depending on health and who's doing what by that time. That's about 6 weeks away. So again, give me Cincinnati to win this game and to win the Arizona game the following week. Home against Seattle, if they can win that game, that'll put them at 4-2, and that'll have them rolling after an 0-2 start. And again, when you're an 0-2 football team, it's very rare that you make the Super Bowl. The last team that did it was the '95 Cowboys, and they obviously won it. But you don't want to start out 0-2, which is what they did. But if they can get these next few games and get themselves rolling, they'll definitely be in the mix for that division. So Cincinnati Bengals, I got them winning this game here today at Tennessee, and we'll just have to see how things shake up, especially with that bye week coming in a few weeks. That'll get guys healthy and get them going again. The Tennessee Titans, they're in a division that's kind of muddled as well. They have Houston and Jacksonville with them at 1-2. Jacksonville is playing as we speak, and they're looking to improve to 2-2. And then with Houston and Indianapolis playing later today, that'll kind of give us an idea of how things are going to shake up. Again, I got Tennessee losing this game today, and they're at the Indianapolis Colts, 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS. They have the international game I mentioned against the Baltimore Ravens. Then they have their bye week, Week 7 as well, the Tennessee Titans. October 29th, they'll be home against the Atlanta Falcons. Then they'll have a quick turnaround at Pittsburgh for Thursday Night Football, November 2nd, 8:15 p.m. Eastern on Prime Video. This AFC North is probably gonna look the way that the NFC South did. You're gonna have a few teams under 500, and one team has to win this division. Indianapolis leads it right now, but I don't know how long they'll hold on to it. So if you're the Tennessee Titans, looking at your next games here, I did say that they were gonna lose to Cincinnati today. If you can get Indianapolis and, like, Atlanta, for example, that'll still put you at 2 and 3 over the next 5 games, and you'll still be within striking distance. That's what you wanna be if you're Tennessee, is striking distance. You're not gonna dominate this division by any means, but as long as they can stay within striking distance, that'll be fine for them. Moving on to another game we're gonna discuss here on the 1 p.m. Eastern slot. The Los Angeles Rams are traveling to Indianapolis to face the Colts here at Oil Stadium. Anthony Richardson, the quarterback for the Colts, he's going to be starting today. He had missed the last game against the Ravens last concussion, but they did get the victory to improve to 2-1. And the Rams, after the opening victory over the Seattle Seahawks on the road, have lost their last 2 games to fall to 1-2. The Rams are favored by a point. Personally, this is a pick'em game also, in my opinion, because I genuinely feel like the Colts looked better with Gardner Minshew in the lineup. Gardner Minshew was a lot more settled, and he knew what to do in the pocket. He's been in the league for 6 years, so I feel like Gardner Minshew, his experience is kinda what gave this team that victory last week. And looking at the flip side of this game here against the Rams, they found some guys that can play with Puka Nacua at wide receiver and also with Tutu Atwell also, but teams are gonna see that. Teams are gonna see that you got these guys now, and they're gonna start the game plan for that. Without Cooper Kupp being in the mix here, he's still gonna be on IR for at least this game. We'll have to see if he's gonna be back for next week, because IR, you have to miss at least 4 games, so this is gonna be that 4th game for him. If it's a situation where Cooper Kupp is back and he's effective at all, with those 2 guys, they're gonna be asked to do less, but you'll still know that they have the production to make things happen. As far as today's game, as far as who I'm taking, this is definitely a pick'em game, but I could see the Rams taking this game by a field goal. I could see the Rams winning this game late and taking this game here to win. again, the Rams, I said at the beginning of the season, I'm not sure what they're gonna be, and they kinda haven't been that. They started out and kinda surprised Seattle, but the last 2 weeks, they've been very much what they were expected to be. And the Colts, on the flip side, they haven't been what they expected to be in a good way. Now they lost to Jacksonville, but their games against Houston and Baltimore, they showed a lot of grit and a lot of toughness. So we'll just kinda have to see what they do. But again, I'm taking the Rams to win this one close. Let's look at the Colts schedule following today. They're home against the Tennessee Titans next week, October 8th at 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS. They're at the Jacksonville Jaguars October 15th, 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Then they're home against the Cleveland Browns, 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS, October 22nd. Then they're home against the Saints, 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox, October 29th. So, one thing about the Colts is they're going to be at home for the next 5 weeks, and home is definitely a nice place to be when you're playing, especially if you're inside of a dome, because this weather's going to get cool here since we've now hit October. I'm taking the Rams in a squeaker, but I can see the Colts defeating the Titans because whether you're using Richardson or whether you're using Minshew Gardner, Indianapolis to me has the better quarterback than Tennessee. I don't like the way Tannehill is playing, so I'm going to take the Colts to win that game. At Jacksonville, that could be a wacky game too because I know they lost at home to Jacksonville, but they could go in and sneak that game. Indianapolis is a huge question mark, but they could be a good team as far as I'm concerned. They could beat the Saints down the line. So we'll have to prognosticate these games as they come with the Colts, but I could see them being 3-2 even with the loss today. And like I said, today's game is a pick 'em. So, with the Colts, we'll just have to see what they are and what they'll do here. The next game we're going to talk about is another divisional matchup here of the NFC South, and that's going to be between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers visiting the New Orleans Saints. Derek Carr, quarterback for the Saints, is out for this game here today, so they're going to be starting Jameis Winston at quarterback. Each team at the top of the division, the Buccaneers, the Saints, and the Falcons are 2-1. The Falcons are playing right now, and it's looking like they're going to fall to 2-2. But with all these teams here that are at the top of the division, they're all kind of the same. It's just a very muddled division. And with Carolina at 0-3, that's the only team that's kind of shown what they actually are one way or the other. So, like I said, you're going to have Baker Mayfield starting for the Tennessee for Tampa Bay, who's actually had a really good season. He's passed for 636 yards, 4 touchdowns to just 1 interception, and he has great rapport with Mike Evans, 17 catches, 297 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Chris Olave has 22 catches for 302 yards, but he has not found the end zone yet. Jameis Winston has a little bit of rapport with him and in his rookie year last year out of Ohio State. So we'll have to see if that's a factor. Taysom Hill is going to be the backup, but he's more like a Swiss Army knife at quarterback, more so he can be a tight end and line up and catch the football, or he can just run it in because he's kind of a bigger body. So the Saints, when they have that kind of offense going and humming, they can actually hurt teams with that. So me personally, I'm going to take the Saints to win this game as well. And there's actually been a report that's just come out here in the last 30 minutes, actually. Derek Carr is actually going to be active for this game. They actually has just made a switch here. Derek Carr is actually going to be active for this game. Jameis Winston is now going to be the backup. So yeah, I apologize for that. Derek Carr is actually starting this game today despite the shoulder issue. So that's going to be very interesting. He must have enough pain management, or it must not be as bad as he is as we think it is for him to play. And that's the thing. With a sprained AC joint, it's typically hard to move your shoulder in a motion that is required to throw the football, circular motion. So it's very interesting that he did this play. But hey, if he wants to get out there and do it, that just goes to yeah. So my apologies. Derek Carr is going to be playing today for the Saints. So I'm also going to be taking the Saints as well, as far as winning this football game here because that's going to determine down the road who's going to be what in that division here. So let's take a look at the Saints schedule and see what's going on here. Derek Carr playing is actually kind of surprising to me because they said that they were going to be looking at this on a week to week basis. And hey, he says he's coming out 6 days later and says he wants to play. So shout out to the Saints for having him available because under normal circumstances, most teams are going to have a quarterback situation where somebody's missing time. They're at the New England Patriots November 8th, 1 p.m. Eastern. They're at the Texans 1 p.m. Eastern October 15th. Then the turnaround, they have a Thursday night game here, October 19th, 8:15 p.m. Eastern. Then they're at the Indianapolis Colts October 29th, 1 p.m. Eastern. Um, those are all winnable games if you're the Saints. New England's defense is going to be tough on you. So that's going to be tough for the Saints. And also on the flip side, between the Houston game and the Jacksonville game, those two divisional matchups are within 5 days of each other for Thursday night football. So that might be tough. But the Saints can win all these games here. I just don't know what the Saints are yet. And then looking at Tampa Bay's schedule, I don't know what they are yet either. I got the Saints winning this game here, but then the Buccaneers have a bye week, week 5 here, so they'll be getting into one of those early bye weeks. Then they have a game home against the Detroit Lions, October 15th, 1 p.m. Eastern. They're home against the Atlanta Falcons, 1 p.m. Eastern, October 22nd. Then they turn around and have a Thursday night game at Buffalo, October 22nd, 8:15 p.m. Eastern. Then they're at the Houston Texans November 5th, 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS. So Detroit looks like a loss and Buffalo looks like a loss. So if Tampa Bay loses today, loses in Detroit, or loses home against Detroit, then they're at Buffalo, that's 2-3 over their next 5 games here. But I don't know if that's going to hurt them that bad. I just don't know if it's going to be a situation where it actually hurts them or leaves them in the dust by any means. So we'll just have to see. Again, the NFC North has been a muddled division the last couple seasons. Even with Tom Brady in the division last year, everybody was within a game with each other, but Tampa Bay just happened to have the better record of the teams that weren't very good. So we'll just have to see how things shake up in that division. It's a very tough division as far as who's going to do what because there's nobody definitively good. So that's the issue there. Another divisional matchup here, we're going to see the Washington Commanders traveling to Philly to face the Eagles here. That's 1 p.m. Eastern at Lincoln Financial Field. The Philadelphia Eagles are sitting at 3-0 on top of that division, with Dallas and Washington at 2-1, and the New York Giants at 1-2. The Commanders, to me, they got walloped last week against the Buffalo Bills, and that game was at home. That game wasn't even in Buffalo, where Buffalo is capable of doing a lot. So that kind of brought the Commanders back down to earth for me. With their win against Denver and the way that they were able to pull things out against Arizona, I think we had a very inflated view of what they are as a team, plain and simple. I don't see Washington as a good football team. And as these games come up here, that's going to continue to show. I got Philadelphia winning today. Washington does get some solace later this week with their Thursday night football game at home against the Chicago Bears, 8:15 p.m. Eastern, October 5th. I'm still taking them to win that football game. 10 days later, they're at Atlanta, 1 p.m. Eastern, October 15th on CBS. And they could take that game too. Washington, they're better than Atlanta to me at this time right now. They're at the New York Giants, October 22nd, 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Then they're home again for their second matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles, October 29th, 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox. So they start the month against Philadelphia, then they close out the month against Philadelphia as well. So those are bookend losses. So say for the sake of argument, excuse me, that Washington loses to Philly both games, but they win their 3 games in the middle. That's still going to put them at 3-2, and they'll still be in the mix because I feel like they were exposed as to what kind of team they are, but it doesn't mean that they're a bad team. It's just people might have overinflated them as to what kind of team they are and how good they are. For the Philadelphia Eagles on the flip side, after today's game, and then again game that they're going to win at the end of the month on the 29th, following today, they're at the Los Angeles Rams, 4:05 p.m. Eastern. Then they're at the New York Jets, October 15th, 4:25 p.m. Eastern on Fox. The game after that, home against the Dolphins, October 22nd, 8:20 p.m. Eastern on Fox. That's the only game over these 5 games I could see them losing. And as we get closer to that game, I'll have a more definitive idea who's going to win that game because Dolphins Eagles feels very, very much like a slugfest. Especially Miami's offense. If you get Miami's offense going on the Eagles' defense, it's going to be very tough on Jalen Hurts. He's going to have to do more than he normally does. So I'll pick that game for you as we get closer to it. But the Eagles at worst could be 4-1 over the course of 5 weeks. Whereas Washington, again, I'm going to see them as a 2-3 football team, pretty much here. But the NFC North right now still belongs to Philadelphia until further notice. With Dallas losing that game against Arizona, and with them playing against New England, which we're going to talk about in a little bit here, things are very crucial for the Cowboys. Losing Trayvon Diggs on defense hurt them a lot more than I thought it would. A lot more than I thought it would. So we'll just have to see. But Philadelphia, like I said, that's their division. Now, I don't see it belonging to anybody else for now. Another matchup here that we got coming up here this afternoon here, a matchup of two winless teams here that are also 0-3, much like the Broncos and Bears, as I said earlier. The Minnesota Vikings are traveling to visit the Carolina Panthers here at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina. That game is at 1 p.m. Eastern. The Minnesota Vikings are favored by 4.5 to win that football game, so basically 5 points. And last week, that they gave that game to the Chargers. They definitely gave that game to the Chargers. There's no way that they should have lost that football game, in all honesty here. And the sad part is that Kirk Cousins, he's had a great season. He has 1,075 passing yards. He's one of the top quarterbacks in all of football as far as the football. Um, he has 9 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. He hasn't been playing bad. It's just that a couple things jump out. Number one, the defense for Minnesota hasn't hummed the same way as it has the last couple of seasons as far as controlling the football and keeping the offense out of the end zone. And another problem with the end zone that Minnesota's having is they haven't been finding the end zone as much as they should. Like I said, Kirk Cousins does have 9 touchdowns, but he only has 1 touchdown to Justin Jefferson. And conversely, Alexander Madison only has 155 rushing yards through 3 games. That's where you're missing Dalvin Cook as well, because he can get you those touchdowns also. So give me Minnesota to get their first win today. I genuinely think they should have won last week against the Chargers. It was just a dumb calls down the stretch as far as coaching that cost them to lose that game. That costed them that game. So give me Minnesota to win this football game today here, sending the Panthers to 0-4. I'd be shocked if Carolina won this game, but they're starting Andy Dalton again at quarterback. He looked better in a loss, if that makes sense, because Bryce Young is a rookie. He just doesn't have those reps yet that Andy Dalton has. So naturally, it's going to look like that. But like I said, give me Minnesota to win today. They're home against the Kansas City Chiefs next week, 4:25 p.m. Eastern, October 8th. I'm taking Kansas City. They're at the Chicago Bears, October 15th, 1 p.m. Eastern, and I could definitely see them winning that. Then the following week, they have Monday Night Football, October 23rd, 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ABC. Then they have their following matchup here against the NFC North rival, the Green Bay Packers, October 29th, 1 p.m. Eastern at Green Bay on Fox. So, like I said, I'm taking Minnesota today. They're going to lose to KC in San Francisco, but they'll beat the Chicago Bears. At Green Bay feels like a pick 'em because it feels like even though Green Bay has won games, they don't feel that much better than Minnesota to me. They just don't feel that much better to Minnesota to me as what they are as a football team. So that game is definitely a pick 'em, but I could see Minnesota being 3-2, 2-3 over the course of their next 5 football games, based on what happens today. They're going to win today. It's hard for me to see Carolina winning this game unless they just go on a romp, but I just haven't seen anything to indicate that. On the flip side, the Carolina Panthers here, they're looking to get off the schneid as well and get some wins again, and we'll just have to see if they're capable of doing that. But Bryce Young is going to be available. It's a long time. So Carolina, either way, I see them losing this football game today. They're at the Detroit Lions October 8th, 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox. 15th, 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Then they head into their bye week for week 7. Then their next games are at home against the Houston Texans, October 29th, 1 p.m. Eastern. Then they're home against the Indianapolis Colts, 4:05 p.m. Eastern, November 5th. Carolina could win those back end games against Houston and Indianapolis because Carolina, Houston, and Indianapolis are kind of all in that same realm as far as what they are as football teams. So those are games that they can win. Plus, they're at home. So even if Carolina does lose their next few games, which I expect them to do, I could see them being a 3-2 football team at best. 3. It's looking like they're going to be a 2-3 football team because Carolina, like I've stated many times, they're probably playing for a top draft pick again. They're probably not taking a quarterback, but they're looking like they're playing for a top draft pick because this team has a couple of veterans on it, but they're not the type of veterans that are gonna they're gonna get their first win of the season today, and that division that they're in belongs to the Lions, cut and dry. Another game we're going to get to here on the schedule here, the Pittsburgh Steelers are traveling to visit the Houston Texans here. That's going to be the last of one of the matchups here happening at 1 p.m. Eastern. And that's going to be a matchup of teams that I see going in different directions, even though Pittsburgh had some stumbles to start the year. Pittsburgh is 2-1 on the year. The Texans are 1-2 on the year. And Pittsburgh is favored by 3 points. I honestly thought that Pittsburgh would be favored by more. Pittsburgh's defense, to me, is going to be the story of this game. CJ Stroud isn't having a bad year, and he actually picked it up really well in their win last week. He is 78 of 121 for 906 yards and 4 touchdowns. Kenny Pickett, the second-year starter out of Pittsburgh, he has 4 touchdowns to 3 interceptions with 689 yards passing. The story hasn't been the offense for Pittsburgh because they definitely need to pick it up. Najee Harris only has 139 yards rushing through 3 games and has not found the end zone yet. And he has not been the back that they expected him to be since his rookie year in 2021. He was a lot better in 2021 as a rookie. And hopefully they can get some contribution from him soon, certainly. Jalen Warren, the backup the running back, he's been having a pretty good year as well. And they'll probably spell him more and get him some more touches on the football as well. Me personally, I got Pittsburgh winning this game today, and they're only favored by 4, but I could see them winning by a touchdown, possibly 2 touchdowns. Houston is at home, but they got a lot of young pieces that are still looking to get going. Something interesting to keep in mind about the Houston Texans is with their receiving core. Nico Collins and Tank Dell, the 2 rookies, I really like them a lot. Well, Tank Dell's a rookie, I apologize. Nico Collins, this is actually his second year. I like Nico Collins a lot. He was a third round pick out of the University of Michigan. And when you have Tank Dell with him, that makes things easier from the Dallas Cowboys on a 1 year deal. He can make a difference for them too if it's a situation where he doesn't have anywhere to throw the football. This is a work in progress, and like I said, I got the Pittsburgh Steelers winning this football game today here. Let's take a look at the Steelers schedule here to see what their schedule looks like over the course of the next few games because to me, the AFC North, we're going to have to see because Baltimore has injuries on key parts of their team. The Browns don't even have Deshaun Watson for today's game. In Cincinnati, there's question marks about what's going to happen with Joe Burrow's calf and what's going to happen with that team as a whole. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, this game is pretty important, as is the next couple. They're home against the Baltimore Ravens October 8th at 1 p.m. Eastern. Then they have a bye week, week 6, to kind of get healthy a bit. Will Cam Hayward be back? We're still not sure. He's dealing with a groin injury and he's been out the last couple of games. So they would love to have him back. After the bye week, they're at the Los Angeles Rams at 4:05 p.m. Eastern on October 22nd. Then they're home against the Jacksonville Jaguars 1 p.m. Eastern, October 29th. Then they follow that up with a Thursday night game, home against the Tennessee Titans, 8:15 p.m. Eastern on October 2nd. So Pittsburgh, to me, they could be 4-1, 3-2 at worst. Baltimore is going to be a slugfest regardless because of the rivalry between those 2 teams. And then at Los Angeles, I give them that win because they're coming off of a bye week. Coming off of a bye week and traveling should be easier on them, in my opinion. So, at worst, like I said, they'll be 3-2 over their next 5 games, and they'll still be kind of in the mix of things as far as the AFC North. Like I said, they're with Baltimore and Cleveland at 2-1 right now before the results of today's games and tomorrow's games. Cincinnati's at 1-2, getting their first win last week. So everybody's kind of in the same spot. Now, looking at today's game here at 4:05 Eastern between the Las Vegas Raiders and the Los Angeles Chargers, that's an AFC West matchup that'll be happening this afternoon. That's the only game that's at 4:05 PM Eastern. We'll talk about the 4:25 games after that, but this game coming up here, the Raiders and the Chargers, both of these teams suffered rough losses last week. The Raiders just got beat up, and the way that the Chargers, were able to get that win, excuse me, it was kinda gift wrapped. A great team yet. Each team is 1 and 2 heading into this divisional game, and the Chargers are actually favored by a touchdown to win this football game. Me personally, I got the Chargers winning this game too. Jimmy Garoppolo actually didn't pass concussion protocol, and he's actually going to be out for this game. So the Raiders are actually starting their rookie quarterback, Aiden McConnell. He's going to get his first start today here. That alone could be trouble for the Raiders. Aiden McConnell looked pretty good in the preseason, but that's the preseason. Teams aren't showing you their true defenses yet, and they're not even using the personnel that they're going to use. If you're the Raiders or the Chargers, the saving grace is having Denver at the bottom. That's kind of the doormat for you to put your feet. But as far as catching Kansas City, and if you want to keep pace with Kansas City, you need to win this game today if you're the Chargers or the Raiders. I'm taking the Chargers to win just due to the simple fact that the Raiders are starting a rookie today. But Kansas City, this is their division. They did start with a hiccup against the Lions, but that was more due to Kansas City not having Kelsey in there, more so than Kansas City being a bad team. I think Kansas City is going to get rolling here. Looking at this game here again, I'm taking the Chargers, and let's take a look at their schedule heading into the next 4 games after this here. The Chargers have a bye week, week 5, so that should help with Austin Eckler. Esther Eckler is doubtful for this game, and he's probably gonna miss this game. And with that, with him missing this game and with him having a bye week, he should be available. Keyword is should. We'll have to see. Because the Chargers, after their bye week, week 5, are home against the Dallas Cowboys, 8:15 PM Eastern for Monday Night Football, October 16th. Then 6 days later, they're at Kansas City, October 22nd, 4:25 PM Eastern on CBS. Then they're home against the Bears, October 29th for a Sunday night football game, 8:20 PM Eastern on NBC. Then they're at the Jets for Monday Night Football, 8:15 PM Eastern, November 6th. So the Chargers, to me, if they can get this win, they'll still the Dallas and Kansas City are their next 2 games following the bye, so those are gonna be tough games just due to the simple fact that you're at Kansas City, and I know they've won before, but I still got Kansas City winning that game, so if you're the Chargers, realistically, you could be 3 and 2 with a win today and with those wins later against the Bears and Jets. The Bears and Jets, those aren't factors because of different situations. So realistically, if you're the Chargers, if you can be 3 and 2, and if you can get a win against Kansas City, that'll keep you in the mix. But if you lose to Kansas City, that's going to immediately take you out of the mix, as far as I'm concerned, as far as being able to do something. As far as the Raiders go, Aiden McConnell, that's an interesting story to me because Jimmy Garoppolo struggled, and then with that concussion, that kind of threw things up in the air. I honestly thought that the Raiders were going to go with veteran Brian Hoyer, who's been in the league a while, but they want to see what the kids got. Because think about this: if you're the Las Vegas Raiders, this is the best chance for you to see what the kid has got without having a losing season where the season is over already, and without having to bench Jimmy Garoppolo due to his play. So if Aiden McConnell shows you anything, you'll have your quarterback for the next few years down the road because Jimmy Garoppolo, he's there on a 3-year deal, sure. But hey, if you got your guy, find out if you can. I'm looking at the Raiders' schedule here. Let's look at their schedule and see what they got going on here following their game here today against the Chargers. They're home against the Green Bay Packers on October 9th for Monday Night Football. That's at 8:15 PM Eastern on ABC. Then they're home 6 days later against the New England Patriots, 4:05 PM Eastern, October 15th. They travel to the Chicago Bears October 29th, 1 PM Eastern on October 22nd. Then they're at the Detroit Lions, I'm sorry, for another Monday Night Football game here, October 30th, 8:15 PM Eastern on ABC. They got a couple Monday Nighters coming up. Um, the only game I could see them beating the Bears, but even the Giants game down the road isn't a gimme. They got the Giants and the Jets down the road starting November, and if you're the Raiders, I'm not going to say anything is a gimme because you haven't proven anything either. Who's to say that they're any better than the New York Giants or the Jets? Um, we'll have to see with the Raiders, but to me, they could be a 1-4 football team over the next 5 weeks with that win coming against the Bears, and that's at Chicago. But the Bears they're a dumpster fire. They're not going anywhere. So the Raiders, to me, they're muddled, but they're closer to the bottom of the pack as far as I'm concerned. So I'm very curious to see what the kid O'Connell has got for this team because again, if you got a quarterback that can play, he's a fourth round pick out of Purdue. If Aiden O'Connell can play, then hey, that's a win regardless because Jimmy Garoppolo, to me, he doesn't scream winner. He's not bad, but he doesn't scream, I'm gonna take you to the promised land. So we'll just have to see how that goes here. Now, for a couple of 4:25 p.m. Eastern matchups we're going to talk about here today. The next one we're going to talk about is the Patriots visiting the Dallas Cowboys here. Again, that's at 4:25 p.m. Eastern at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. The Cowboys are favored by 6 to win this game here and take this football game. And this is Ezekiel Elliott's first return to the Dallas Cowboys, being an opponent of the Dallas Cowboys there since he was released in the summer. And it's going to be very interesting. I wonder if Dallas is going to give him any kind of tribute or anything because he did play well for them and he did have great statistics. It's just over the last couple of years, he definitely started to decline. And that's how he ended up with the Patriots. Dallas is 2-1. They sit with Washington at 2-1 behind the Philadelphia Eagles at 3-0. And I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys to win this football game as well. The key is Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott still needs to answer the question on whether he can bail this team out if the defense isn't playing well or not. And the answer to that question against the Arizona Cardinals was a no. That was a very shocking defeat. I had them winning that football game over Arizona, and I was definitely wrong about that. I'm going to take them to win today, but Dak has to show me something. If it's a situation where the defense harasses Mac Jones and makes his day hard, that's going to make it easier on Dak. But if the defense doesn't have any kind of success against that offense, what is Dak going to do? We'll have to see. They're at the San Francisco 49ers next week for Sunday Night Football, October 8th. Then they're at the Los Angeles Chargers October 16th for Monday Night Football, 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ABC. Then they head into their bye week. These games are going to be very, very key for the Dallas Cowboys. Very key because you're not only trying to prove you're worth it as a team and prove that you're actually them boys, but you're trying to stay with the Philadelphia Eagles. So these games are going to be very key, and a couple of them are prime time. So we're going to see them. Let's see. Sorry about that. They're home against the Los Angeles Rams here October 29th, following their bye week, 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Then they're at the Philadelphia Eagles, 4:25 p.m. Eastern, November 5th for on Fox as well. So if they can beat Philly and if they can beat San Francisco on the road, they're for real. If they can't win those games, then they're who we thought they were, in my opinion. But I still got Dallas today, but the three of their next four games are extremely huge. Three of their next four games are extremely huge as far as what they're going to do here. I'm looking at the Patriots on the flip side here. Let's take a look at what their schedule is going to be after today here. Again, I have them with the loss. They're home against the Saints October 8th, 1 p.m. Eastern on the CBS. Then the following week, they're at the Las Vegas Raiders at 4:05 p.m. Eastern on CBS. They're home against Buffalo October 22nd, 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Then they're at the Miami Dolphins, 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS October 29th. So the New England Patriots, their division is kind of is lesser of an issue just due to the simple fact that the Jets are probably going to be a disappointment with the loss of Aaron Rodgers, and New England already beat them head to head last week. So that takes care of that. Secondly, if you can get to Buffalo and Miami towards the end of October, depending on how they are, you'll be in great shape. I don't have New England winning today, But they're a wild card team. I still don't know what they are yet, good or bad, because they show me good things even in a loss. So I think they could beat the Raiders, and I think they can sneak one away from Buffalo in an upset. That would put them at 2-3 over the course of their next 5 games, and that would kind of keep them in the mix a little bit, just a little bit. A little bit. But like I said, New England, I don't know what they are yet, and we'll have to see what they are today. Because if they could play any kind of defense and kind of make things tough on Dak Prescott, that'll be the key to taking this game. But like I said here, that's going to be a toss up as far as what the New England Patriots do. Because if Dallas's defense makes life tough on Mac Jones, then they're doomed. Another matchup that we're going to talk about here happening at 4:25 p.m. Eastern, a divisional matchup here is the Arizona Cardinals, who I mentioned beating the Dallas Cowboys last week to get their first win. They're traveling to San Francisco to take on the 49ers here at 4:25 p.m. Eastern. The Niners, they played 10 days ago last in their matchup week 3 against the Giants. So they've had some time to kind of rest and get things together and get guys healthy. I got them winning this football game. I don't see the Cardinals sneaking one on the Dallas Cowboys like they did the Cardinals. I don't see the Cardinals sneaking one on the Cowboys like they did to them last week. Or they're not going to do that to the Niners this week. The Niners see the Cardinals twice a year, so naturally they're going to be more prepared for them anyway. Just because of the fact they see them every year. The Cardinals and Cowboys don't see each other all the time. They used to be old NFC West foes, believe it or not, but that's not the case here. I got the Niners winning this game. They're favored by 14 in Vegas, which would be 2 touchdowns, and that's not that unreasonable to me because like I said, I feel like the Cowboys underestimated what the Cardinals were and didn't take them seriously. That was what had to do with that loss more so than Arizona being a good football team. Because Arizona has shown some fight, but they just don't have the talent to really match up with the teams they play with. So, again, I'm gonna take care of the San Francisco Niners to 49ers, excuse me, to win this game today here. Sunday night football against the Dallas Cowboys. I'm gonna have a more firm prediction for you in about a week or so, but that's gonna be a money game. That looks like it could be an NFC Championship preview, possibly. Money game. The Niners are at the Cleveland Browns October 15th for their Week 6 matchup, 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Then for Monday Night Football, they're at the Minnesota Vikings, 8:15 p.m. Eastern, October 23rd on ABC. Then 6 days later, they're home against the Cincinnati Bengals, October 29th, 4:25 p.m. Eastern on CBS. So, like I said, the San Francisco 49ers, to me, they could win these next 5 games. Cleveland's defense is top notch. They're the top defense in the league right now. So that could give the 49ers problems a little bit, but I don't expect it to be much of a situation where they lose the game. Dallas next week is going to be their toughest game, but at the same time, they could eat because Dallas, they have their own problems, and we'll just have to see how that thing shakes up. So give me the Niners to be 4-1 over the next 5 weeks at worst. 4-1 over the next 5 weeks at worst, in my opinion. Looking at the Cardinals, let's look at the games that they got coming up here on their schedule here. If they were to lose today, that would make them 1-3. Kyler Murray is still expected to be out. They say he's going to remain on the pup list for at least another 4 weeks. So we probably won't see him in October. So look for Joshua Dobbs to be the starter for the forthcoming games that they got here. They're home against the Cincinnati Bengals October 8th, 4:05 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Then they're at the Los Angeles Rams, 4:25 p.m. Eastern on Fox as well. At the Seattle Seahawks, October 22nd, 4:05 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Then home against Baltimore, 4:25 p.m. Eastern on CBS. So the Arizona Cardinals, to me, they show a lot of fight and they show a lot of grit, but they just don't have the talent as the people that they're playing against. So that's going to be the key here. I could see them at best being 2-3. I don't see them winning today. I don't see them winning against the Bengals either, even though they're at home. And I think Baltimore down the line could give them problems too. So Arizona, to me, Oh man, they got like I said, they got fight, but they don't have the talent. We'll have to see where they end up as far as the draft situation, and if they really are going to want to draft a quarterback or not. Kyler Murray's been your guy a few years now, but do they draft a quarterback? Arizona is tied to Kyler Murray, but they're not tied to Kyler Murray the way Denver is to like Russell Wilson, for example. So that's definitely something to think about if you're the Arizona Cardinals here, depending on where you are by the end of the month, heading into November. Do we want a quarterback? I don't know. Do we draft a wide receiver? Do we draft someone on the line? Do we bring in another running back? A lot of questions for the Arizona Cardinals. San Francisco, on the other hand, they don't really have many. So we'll just have to see how that game shakes up. But give me the 49ers to win in a rout. Let's talk about the Sunday night football game coming up here as well here. The Kansas City Chiefs are at the New York Jets here for the Sunday night football matchup at MetLife Stadium. That game is at 8:20 Eastern on NBC. The Chiefs are 2-1. The Jets are 0-2. The Chiefs started their season with a loss, but have won their last two games here. The Jets started their season off with a win, but Rodgers and have lost their last two, including last week against the Patriots. Kansas City is favored by 8, but I could see them winning by a lot more than that because the Jets, the team as a whole, they don't like Zach Wilson at quarterback, and it's starting to affect their play. You can kind of see it in the locker room. You can kind of see it amongst the guys that are in that locker room. They're starting to lose faith in their coach, and they just don't have any faith in Zach Wilson. They don't. Losing Aaron Rodgers was a big blow to this football team. There's no other way to slice that. And what do you do? Can they recover from this? They brought in Trevor Simeon to be on the practice squad, but what's Trevor Simeon going to do? He's been in the league longer, so he has a better grasp of how to do things with the playbook once he gets a hold of it, but he's not that much better than Zach Wilson. He's really not. So I got the Jets losing this game here against the Chiefs at the Denver Broncos next Sunday, October 8th, 4:25 p.m. Eastern. That's that's a very sad game because even if the Broncos do get a win today, they'll either be 1-3, possibly 0-4. And if the Jets they lose today, they'll be 1-3. That's a sad game because I'm pretty sure when that game was scheduled, a lot of people thought had that game as Aaron Rodgers against Russell Wilson. Give me the Broncos to win that football game. I don't know why, but give me the Broncos to win that game since they're at home because, man, that's going to be a rough one. We'll have to see how that goes. Hopefully they surprise us, but that's going to be a rough one. The following week, the Jets are at home against the Philadelphia Eagles, 4:25 p.m. Eastern, October 15th. Then they have their bye week for week 7. Week 8, they're at the New York Giants, October 29th, 1 p.m. Eastern. As I stated earlier, they share that stadium, so that's a home game for the Giants, but that's their stadium as well. Then they're home against the Los Angeles Chargers for Monday Night Football, November 6th, 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ABC. I touched that game a bit ago when we were talking about the Chargers. Um, None of these games scream victory except for Denver. You could win the Denver game, but the Eagles, you're not going to win that game. The bye week, then you're at the Giants. That's going to be one of the rare occasions where the Giants actually have the better quarterback in Daniel Jones. People sleep on Daniel Jones, but if you gave me Daniel Jones or Zach Wilson, I'm taking Daniel Jones. He has shown me more, even though people sleep on him. That's why he's getting 40 mil a year, and Zach Wilson is on a rookie deal. He's not getting that. So I could see the Giants winning that football game, and then the Chargers again, Monday Night Football. Justin Herbert is the better quarterback, even though you're home against them. I could see the Chargers coming in and taking that game. So the Jets, man, they got a lot of questions that they're going to need to get answered here sooner and later. It's not sooner than later for them; it's sooner and later. So if you're the Jets, you're in trouble. The Chiefs, on the flip side, I don't see any trouble for them on the horizon. I really don't. The only thing that we've seen stop the Chiefs is injury. Literally. I haven't seen anything else that has stopped the Kansas City Chiefs from being a great football team. things are booming just when you thought they couldn't be. Taylor Swift, the rumors with Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, that's driven sales all across the board for them at other stadiums and their own stadium. Travis Kelce is the top jersey sales right now. It's nuts. So Kansas City, I got them winning to improve to 3-1 tonight. They're at the Minnesota Vikings next week, October 8th, 4:25 p.m. Eastern on CBS. I got them winning that against the Broncos for Thursday Night Football, October 12th. That's a win. 10 days later, they're home against the Los Angeles Chargers, October 22nd at 4:25 p.m. Eastern. The Chargers are very sneaky going into Arrowhead and winning games, but I don't feel like that'll happen this year. And then again, the Chiefs have the Broncos again at Denver, October 29th, 4:25 p.m. Eastern on CBS. That's a win. So barring catastrophic events such as injuries or just something crazy happening, I can see the Chiefs winning their next 5 straight games. You have to take things week by week when you're a professional, but don't see the Chiefs losing that game. I really don't. I don't see them losing a game until heading into November when they play the Dolphins November 5th. They play the Dolphins November 5th. They have a bye week 10, and then they play the Eagles. So we'll talk about those games in November as we get closer. But over the next 5 games, including today, I just don't see them losing them. I really don't. The final game we're going to talk about before we wrap up today's broadcast here on Sunday, the Monday Night Football game is the Seattle Seahawks traveling to visit the New York Giants. That game is going to be played at MetLife Stadium, Monday Night Football at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ABC and ESPN. The Seahawks are actually favored by 1.5, so basically that's as close to a pick 'em as you can get without it being pick 'em or even. So as far as I'm concerned, Seattle to me, they are probably gonna win that game. The Giants, I know they're playing at home, but Saquon Barkley is still gonna be out for this game here. They're saying that that injury is gonna be probably another week or so. They have him listed as doubtful for tomorrow, but when you're doubtful, that's very close to out. And left tackle Andrew Thomas, he was unable to practice this week with that hamstring injury, so he is out for that game tomorrow night. So the Giants sit at the bottom at 1-2 of their division, with Dallas and Washington above them at 2-1, Philly at 3-0. And I'm taking Seattle to win this football game. Play this up. I got Seattle winning this game. They're at the Miami Dolphins 6 days later here for Sunday, October 8th, 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox. You have a Sunday night football game, October 15th, following that at Buffalo, 8:20 p.m. Eastern on NBC. I got them losing that game. They're home against the Washington Commanders, and then they're home against the New York Jets, respectively, October 22nd and 29th, 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Like I said just a bit ago, they could win they're winning that game against the Jets because they'll have the better personnel. Washington is a pick 'em because divisional games can go either way, but I could see them squeaking that game out. If New York wants to be in the mix, they have to go at worst 3-2 over the course of their next 5 games. If they can win their home games, Monday Night Football against Seattle, Washington, and New York at the end of the month, they'll be in the mix. They'll definitely be in the mix at 3-2 and kind of holding serve, if you will, for like a wild card spot. On the flip side, the Seattle Seahawks, we talked about their division. San Francisco runs that division. And as far as the Cardinals, I don't know what they are. So the Seahawks are kind of in a similar position. If they get this win tonight, they have a bye week, week 5. Then they're at the Cincinnati Bengals, October 15th, 1 p.m. Eastern. They're home against the Arizona Cardinals, October 22nd, 4:05 p.m. Eastern, and home against the Cleveland Browns, 4:05 p.m. Eastern, October 29th, before traveling to Baltimore, October 5th. The Seattle Seahawks, they're kind of in a similar position. If they can beat the Giants today, and if they can get those games against, say, for example, the Arizona Cardinals and the Baltimore Ravens, that's going to put them at 3-2 as well for their next 5 game stretch. So very curious to see how this thing goes, but they could be in the mix too if they can play the right games. One more thing I'm going to touch on before we get out of here. I'm going to reveal the score here. The final score: the Jacksonville Jaguars that defeated the Atlanta Falcons 23-7 in that international matchup that we had earlier today. So just wanted to give you that score before we head out. Go ahead and end today's broadcast here. Thank you so much for joining me here and going through all this week 1 matchups with me here. I'm going to be back on Tuesday so we can discuss all the results here and let you know how everybody did and kind of go over the results and kind of see where everybody's shaking up as far as their division goes. And I'm going to give you some predictions on what I think is going to happen for the Thursday night game and all things going forward. So thank you again so much for joining me on the broadcast. I am Big J, and this is The Hype Show. Thank you so much again for joining me. You guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Have a great day. Peace.